If you decided to move back to the United States tomorrow after just 5 years living abroad, could you actually afford it? We often talk about the financial freedom of leaving, lower costs, better weather, a slower pace of life. But what nobody talks about is the financial impossibility of returning. There is a silent crisis brewing for American retirees. You sell your home, you leave the system, and you enjoy your life. But while you're gone, the US economy changes. Prices rise, credit systems reset, and the door that you walked out of, it quietly locks behind you. In this video, we're looking at the hard math of 2026, why, for many of you, your move abroad might effectively be a one-way ticket, not by choice, but by financial necessity. Roughly 40% of expats eventually return home, usually for family reasons or health issues. But here's the critical question: if you are part of that 40%, do you have the financial infrastructure to survive the landing? I'm going to walk you through the 3 major financial firewalls that stop retirees from repatriating and how you can potentially bridge them. Let's start with the elephant in the room, the real estate gap. The biggest hurdle is the real estate gap. Most retirees fund their move abroad by selling their primary residence in the US. It makes sense. You unlock that equity, you convert it to cash, and you use that cash to live like a king in Portugal, Panama, or Thailand. But there's a catch, and it's a massive one. While you are spending that capital on rent and lifestyle abroad, the US housing market doesn't stop moving. Let's run a hypothetical scenario for 2026. Say you sold your home in 2021 for $400,000. You took that cash and moved to Spain. You've been living well, maybe drawing down 4% or 5% of that capital per year to supplement your Social Security. Now, it's 2026. You want to move back. That same house you sold, due to appreciation and inventory shortages, it might now be valued at $550,000 or $600,000, but your capital hasn't grown to match that. In fact, you've been spending it. You might have $300,000 or $320,000 left. You've been priced out of your own previous life. You cannot buy back into the market you left. And this is key: interest rates. When you left, maybe rates were at historic lows, 2.5% to 3%. In 2026, if mortgage rates are hovering around 6% or 7%, your buying power is slashed even further. Let me break down the math because the numbers are brutal. In 2021, a $300,000 mortgage at 3% meant monthly payments of around $1,265. In 2026, that same $300,000 mortgage at 7%. Your monthly payment jumps to $1,996. That's an extra $731 per month, or nearly $8,800 more per year for the exact same loan amount. But you're not getting a $300,000 mortgage anyway because homes have appreciated. You need a $450,000 mortgage, if you even have enough for the 20% down payment at 7%. That's a monthly payment of $2,994. Compare that to the $1,200 a month you've been paying for your apartment in Valencia, and you can see the problem immediately. And here's something most people don't consider. Closing costs have also increased. You're looking at 2% to 5% of the purchase price just to close the deal. On a $550,000 home, that's $11,000 to $27,500 in fees before you even move in. Add that to your down payment of $110,000, and you need between $121,000 and $137,500 in liquid cash just to get the keys. So you might think, well, I'll just rent instead of buying. But rents in the US have climbed consistently and aggressively. If you've been out of the rental market for 5 years, you are entering a market where the median rent might be double what you pay for your luxury apartment in Medellin or Valencia. What cost $1,500 a month in 2021 might now be $2,200 or $2,500. In major metros, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 for a basic 2-bedroom apartment. There's another factor that catches people off guard: rental requirements. Many landlords now require that your monthly income be 3 times the monthly rent. If you're living primarily on Social Security, say $2,500 a month for a married couple, you mathematically cannot qualify for an $1,800 apartment, even with substantial savings in the bank. Some landlords will accept a larger security deposit in lieu of income verification, but that ties up even more of your precious capital, sometimes as much as 6 months' rent up front. And let's talk about what happens to your purchasing power over time. If you're drawing down 5% of your capital annually while living abroad, you're losing ground on two fronts. First, your absolute dollar amount is shrinking. Second, the real estate market is appreciating faster than your remaining capital can keep up. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while you're slowing down. The harsh reality is that many expats have effectively exited the US housing market permanently, whether they realize it or not. Even if you somehow navigate this challenge and decide you're willing to rent long-term, there's another trap waiting for you, one that's invisible until you're already caught in it. The credit score trap. This is something almost no one considers until they are standing at the Hertz counter at JFK Airport and get their card declined. Or they're submitting a rental application and the agent says, "I'm sorry, but there's no credit file coming up for you." In the US, your financial identity is tied to active credit usage. When you move abroad, you often stop using US credit. You close your utility accounts, you pay off your car, you sell your house. You might keep one credit card, but maybe you rarely use it because of foreign transaction fees. Here's the reality. The US credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, they don't care that you are wealthy. They care that you are active. After 6 months to a year of inactivity, your credit score doesn't just go down, you can become credit invisible. About 26 million American adults are credit invisible, and a significant portion are expats who simply dropped out without realizing the consequences. Imagine you return in 2026, you have cash in the bank, let's say $300,000, but you try to rent an apartment. The landlord runs a background check. You have no credit score, or your score has dropped to unscorable. In the US system, that makes you a high-risk tenant. They might demand 6 months of rent up front, if they rent to you at all. Some corporate landlords have strict policies: no score, no lease. You try to lease a car, denied or approved only with a massive deposit and higher interest rate. Get a cell phone plan? Deposit required, sometimes $500 or more per line. Want to set up utilities? Another deposit. The electric company wants $200, the water company wants $150. And here's another insidious aspect: insurance. In many US states, your car insurance and home insurance rates are tied to your credit score. If your score is ghosted, your premiums can skyrocket. We're talking 50% to 100% higher than someone with excellent credit. A policy that should cost $1,200 a year might cost you $2,400 just because you've been living abroad. Think about the compounding effect. You land, needing to set up your life, and suddenly you're hit with $3,000 for rent plus security deposit, $500 for cell phone deposits, $350 for utility deposits, $1,000 extra on car insurance. That's nearly $5,000 in unexpected costs just to establish basic services. You are essentially returning to the US with the financial trustworthiness of an 18-year-old, despite having a lifetime of savings. My advice: keep at least 2 US credit cards active while you live abroad. Use them for small subscriptions, your VPN, your Netflix, your Spotify, and set them to autopay from a US bank account. Keep that digital heartbeat alive. It doesn't matter that the charges are small. What matters is consistent monthly activity. This is especially important if you have older credit cards you've had for 10 or 15 years, because the age of your credit accounts is a significant factor in your score. Also, maintain one small line of credit that reports to all 3 bureaus. Not all cards do. Do your research and make sure you're covered. The credit score trap is real and silent, but at least it's preventable with planning. The next issue, however, shocks people even more because it hits them where they thought they were prepared. The inflation and healthcare shock. Now we're going to look at the daily cost of living, specifically the inflation shock regarding healthcare. And I need you to pay close attention to this section, because this is where the math becomes genuinely frightening for many people. If you've been living in a country with socialized medicine or affordable private care, like Mexico, Portugal, Thailand, or Costa Rica, you have likely forgotten the sheer brutality of US healthcare pricing, or maybe you never experienced it in the first place if you left right after retiring from a job with excellent benefits. In 2026, medical inflation in the US is projected to continue outpacing general inflation. While overall inflation might run at 3% or 4%, healthcare costs are increasing at 6% to 8% annually. This is not a new trend. It's been happening for decades, but the gap between US healthcare costs and the rest of the world has become absolutely staggering. If you are returning before the age of 65, before Medicare kicks in, you are entering the most expensive insurance market in the world. And I'm not exaggerating for effect. For a couple in their early 60s, let's say 62 and 63, trying to purchase health insurance on the individual market, premiums can easily exceed $2,000 a month for a plan with a high deductible. That is $24,000 a year just for the privilege of having coverage before you even see a doctor, before you pay a single copay, before you fill a single prescription, before you hit your deductible. And those high deductible plans, we're talking $5,000 to $8,000 per person before insurance pays anything beyond preventive care. For a couple, you might be looking at a combined deductible of $15,000. That means the first $15,000 of medical care comes out of your pocket on top of the $24,000 in premiums. Let's do the math. $24,000 in premiums plus a potential $15,000 in deductible equals $39,000 in healthcare costs before you've received any significant benefit from your insurance. For many people, that's more than their entire annual budget abroad. Now, you might qualify for subsidies through the Affordable Care Act marketplace depending on your income. But here's the catch. Those subsidies are based on your modified adjusted gross income. If you have significant assets generating income, dividends, capital gains, interest, or if you're taking distributions from retirement accounts to fund your lifestyle, you might not qualify for much assistance. The subsidy cliff can be sharp and unforgiving. And there's another factor people forget. The ACA subsidies are calculated based on the second lowest cost silver plan in your area. If you live in a rural area with limited competition among insurers, even the subsidized rates can be astronomical. I've seen cases where people are quoted $1,800 a month even after subsidies, simply because there are only one or two insurers operating in their county and they can charge whatever they want. But let's say you're one of the lucky ones. Let's say you've hit 65 and you're eligible for Medicare. You're thinking, great, now I'm covered. Medicare will take care of me. But here's what they don't tell you in the glossy brochures. Medicare has gaps, significant gaps. Original Medicare, Parts A and B, doesn't cover everything. Part A covers hospital stays, but you still have deductibles and copays. Part B covers doctor visits and outpatient care, but you're paying 20% of the Medicare-approved amount for most services with no cap on your out-of-pocket costs. If you have a serious illness requiring expensive treatments, that 20% can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. Medicare doesn't cover long-term care, which is one of the biggest financial risks for retirees. If you need a nursing home or extended in-home care, you're paying out of pocket at rates that can exceed $8,000 to $12,000 per month depending on your location, or you're spending down your assets until you qualify for Medicaid. A single year in a nursing home can cost $100,000 or more. Medicare doesn't cover dental in most cases. A root canal and crown can cost $2,000 to $3,000 out of pocket. Medicare doesn't cover vision beyond certain disease-related conditions. Glasses, contacts, routine eye exams, all out of pocket. And as you age, your vision needs increase, not decrease. Medicare doesn't cover hearing aids in most cases, and good hearing aids can cost $2,000 to $7,000 per ear. That's potentially $14,000 for a pair of high-quality devices that need to be replaced every 5 to 7 years. To fill these gaps, most people purchase a Medigap policy or Medicare Advantage plan, adding another $100 to $400 per month per person to your healthcare costs. Plus, Part D prescription drug coverage, another $30 to $100 per month depending on your medications. Even with Medicare, you're looking at healthcare costs of $300 to $600 per person per month, plus deductibles, copays, and uncovered services. For a couple, that's $600 to $1,200 a month minimum, and that's if you're healthy. If you have chronic conditions or need regular treatments, those costs can easily double. Compare this to what you've been paying abroad. In Mexico, high-quality private insurance for a couple in their 60s might cost $300 to $500 per month total, with low deductibles and comprehensive coverage. In Portugal, if you're a legal resident, you have access to the National Health Service for free or minimal cost, and private insurance is maybe $100 to $200 per month per person for premium coverage with no waiting rooms. If you have been budgeting $2,500 a month for your entire lifestyle in Southeast Asia, covering rent, food, utilities, entertainment, healthcare, travel, everything, that entire budget might not even cover your health insurance premiums back in the US. Let that sink in for a moment. So, what's the catch? The catch is that your nest egg was calculated based on a lower cost of living. You ran the numbers, maybe with a financial advisor, and determined you could safely withdraw $3,000 or $4,000 a month and live comfortably abroad for 30 years. Moving back resets your burn rate to US levels, but your portfolio doesn't magically jump to match it. You run the very real risk of outliving your money simply by crossing the border. A portfolio designed to last until age 95 in Portugal might be depleted by age 80 or 82 in the United States, especially if you encounter significant medical issues. And here's the truly scary part. Healthcare inflation is unpredictable and often accelerates as you age. Your costs at age 65 might be manageable, but by age 75 or 80, when you're statistically more likely to need significant medical care, those costs could have doubled. The Medicare premium you pay at 65 will increase every year, and if your income from required minimum distributions pushes you above certain thresholds, you'll pay surcharges called IRMAA, income-related monthly adjustment amounts, that can add hundreds of dollars to your monthly Medicare premiums. This is not meant to discourage you from getting the care you need. If you have a serious medical condition that requires specialized treatment only available in the US, you should absolutely come back. But you need to go in with your eyes wide open about what it's going to cost you, because that cost might determine how many years of retirement you have left to enjoy. Before we move to the final consideration, there's one more aspect of returning that doesn't show up in a spreadsheet, but it's just as real. Reverse culture shock. Finally, briefly, I want to touch on the social aspect. We call this reverse culture shock. The US is a high-stress, high-speed environment. After 5 years of mañana culture in Latin America, where there's always tomorrow and relationships matter more than schedules, or the quiet efficiency and social harmony of Japan, or the laid-back Mediterranean lifestyle of Spain, the aggression of US driving, the polarization of the political climate, and the sheer noise of American consumerism can be genuinely jarring. You land at the airport, and within hours you're reminded of what you left. Roads filled with aggressive drivers cutting each other off, people glued to phones, walking past each other without acknowledgement or basic courtesy, political arguments erupting in grocery stores over mask policies or elections. You go to buy coffee and you're confronted with 17 different options and add-ons, and the person behind you in line is sighing impatiently because you're taking too long to decide. You're used to a simple café con leche and a smile. Now you're trying to remember if you want a venti half-calf oat milk latte with 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla. You turn on the TV and you're bombarded with pharmaceutical ads, political attack ads, and news that seems designed to terrify you. Every channel is screaming about the next crisis, the next threat, the next reason you should be afraid. You've been living in a country where the news is maybe 30 minutes a day and life goes on regardless. Many people return and find they no longer fit in the box they left. They have changed. They've slowed down. They've reprioritized. They've learned to find joy in simple things like morning coffee with neighbors or sunset walks on the beach, but their hometown has changed too, often becoming more expensive, more crowded, more polarized, and less recognizable. Your old friends are still caught up in the rat race, talking about their 401s, their kids' college funds, and the newest iPhone. You want to talk about the incredible sunset you watched from a beach in Bali, or the sense of community you found in your small Mexican town where everyone knows your name. The conversations don't connect anymore. You feel like you're speaking different languages. And here's where this becomes a financial issue. Stress kills, literally. Chronic stress contributes to heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and a weakened immune system. If you return to the US and you're constantly stressed, anxious, and unhappy, your health will decline faster than it would if you were relaxed and content. That means more doctor visits, more medications, more serious interventions, and potentially more years shaved off your life expectancy. Your healthcare costs go up while your quality of life goes down, and the years you thought you had left to enjoy your retirement slip away. It's a vicious cycle. Stress leads to health problems lead to medical bills lead to financial stress, which leads to more health problems. I've seen people return to the US last 6 months in a state of constant stress and unhappiness, and then desperately try to move back abroad, except now they've burned through even more of their capital setting up life in the US, paying deposits, buying a car, furnishing an apartment. The math is even worse than before, and they're trapped. There's also the issue of purpose and identity. When you're living abroad, especially in a close-knit expat community or a welcoming local community, you often find a renewed sense of purpose. You're the interesting foreigner with stories to tell. You're learning a new language, navigating a new culture, maybe volunteering or teaching English. You feel alive, engaged, challenged in positive ways. When you come back to the US as a retiree, you can easily fall into invisibility. American culture doesn't venerate its elders the way many other cultures do. You're just another retiree in a country that worships youth and productivity. That loss of purpose and community can lead to depression, social isolation, and rapid decline in both mental and physical health. I'm not saying this happens to everyone. Some people return and thrive, they reconnect with family, they rejoin communities, they find new purpose. But you need to be honest with yourself about who you've become during your time abroad and whether the US is truly where you want to be, or if you're going back out of obligation, guilt, or fear. Because if you return for the wrong reasons and you're miserable, you're not helping anyone, not your family, and certainly not yourself. So I know you're probably feeling some urgency right now. But the point isn't to scare you, it's to help you plan. If you understand these 3 financial firewalls, you can take steps right now to protect yourself. First, real estate. Stay educated about the market you left. Track home prices and mortgage rates. Run the numbers yearly. Consider keeping a small US property as a hedge, or maintain a return fund invested to keep pace with real estate inflation. Second, credit. Keep 2 US credit cards active with small subscriptions on autopay. Maintain a US bank account. Check your credit report annually at annualcreditreport.com. Third, healthcare. Get actual quotes from the ACA marketplace. If you're over 65, understand Medicare's gaps and factor real supplemental insurance costs into your calculations. Consider geographic arbitrage within the US, lower cost states where your money goes further. Some expats use the boomerang strategy, living abroad most of the year while maintaining a small US base. The key, treat your US financial footprint like a garden. Water it even if you aren't living in it. I've created another video diving deeper into why 40% of American expats return home. I'll link it in the description. Plan now. Stay connected, keep your options open. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.